Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are cracking open a narrative record that is, quite frankly, a masterclass in chaos management.
Or maybe a masterclass in how not to manage chaos.
I think that's probably more accurate, yeah. We are looking at a log simply titled Session 26.
It is certainly a dense text. On the surface, if you just skim it, it reads like a pretty standard fantasy adventure log, fight the bad guy, get the loot.
Right.
But when you actually sit down and peel back the layers, it's a psychological case study on desperation. It's really about what happens when people are backed into a corner and start making very, very bad decisions.
Oh, absolutely. And before we get into the nitty-gritty, we really need to set the scene for you. We were talking about a high-stakes fantasy narrative set in the land of Barovia.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for anyone who hasn't spent time in this particular setting, how would you describe Barovia? It's not exactly a vacation spot, is it?
Far from it, no.
Yeah.
Think of Barovia as a place where the sun never quite shines. It is perpetually overcast. The forests are full of wolves that are smarter than you.
That's terrifying.
It is. And the ruler is an ancient, incredibly powerful vampire named Strahd. The entire atmosphere is oppressive by design. It's a horror setting that's sort of disguised as an adventure setting.
Right. It's pure gothic horror. Everything is decaying, everything is sad. And in this specific session, we are following a party of adventurers who are, to put it mildly, having the worst week of their lives.
That's an understatement.
We've got a desperate heist, a web of lies that would make a seasoned politician blush, and a battle that goes so wrong so fast it forces a humiliating retreat.
And the objective was actually quite surgical, at least on paper. They had a clear mission.
It seems simple.
It did. Infiltrate the home of a noble woman named Lady Wachter in the town of Valaki. Their goal was to retrieve one specific artifact, the Amulet of Ravenkind.
Get in, get the amulet, get out. Sounds simple? It sounds like a classic smash and grab.
It does, but there is a massive elephant in the room before they even step foot in the town.
A huge one.
The party is operating under a deception that is honestly kind of breathtaking in its audacity. They are dragging an ally along, a guy named Ismark, who thinks they are there for a completely different reason.
He thinks they're there to save his sister.
He does.
And spoiler alert for everyone listening, they are definitely not there to save his sister.
No, not at all. And as we'll see, that lie is the structural fault line that threatens to collapse the entire endeavor. It's the ticking clock in the background of every single scene.
So before we watch this train wreck unfold in slow motion, let's quickly orient ourselves.
Right.
Who are the people making these terrible life choices? We got a pretty diverse crew here.
It's a classic adventuring composition for the most part. First, you have Eurahorn Tenpenny. He is a halfling beastmaster.
And he's not alone, right? He's got a companion. The beastmaster part is key.
Correct. A great cat. You should think of a mountain lion or a panther. It's a significant combat asset for sure, but it's also an emotional anchor for him.
Okay, so that's Eurahorn. Then there is Radley.
Radley, a human eldritch knight.
An eldritch knight. Break that down for me. What does that actually mean in practice?
Think of him as the muscle, but with a magical edge. So he wears heavy armor, he swings big weapons, but he can also cast defensive spells or, throw fire. He is the tank, effectively.
Got it. The heavy hitter. The one you send in first.
Exactly. Then we have Parlor Goodshadow, another halfling, but a monk.
So very different from Eurahorn.
Very different. Highly mobile, martial arts focused. He's the guy who runs up walls and punches people in the face. A whirlwind of fists.
And rounding out the main crew, the one who's supposed to make this whole heist thing work.
That would be Dermon Cobain, an elf arcane trickster. He fulfills the rogue archetype, stealth, locks, disarming traps.
All the classic robe stuff.
Right, but he uses magic to enhance those thieving skills. He can go invisible, create illusions. He's their key to getting in quietly.
So we have a beastmaster, a tank mage, a kung fu halfling, and a magic thief.
Yeah.
And then there is Ismark. He's the NPC, the non-player character who's just caught in the middle of all this.
And Ismark is crucial here. He is the new burgomaster of the village of Barovia.
I want to pause on that word burgomaster. We see it a lot in these texts. What does that actually mean in this context? Is he like a mayor? Or is it more than that?
He is like a mayor, but with, let's say, feudal, absolute power and a lot more wolves at his door.
Literally.
Literally, he is the civic leader responsible for the safety of the village. But in Barovia, that's a cursed job. His father died from the stress of it. Ismark is young, he's noble, and he's trying to fill very, very big shoes.
And he is the victim of the party's deception. He's the one they're lying to.
He is. He is the moral anchor that the party has chosen to cut loose, in a way. They're using his goodness against him.
Okay, let's unpack the context here. The why. Why are they robbing Lady Wachter? Why this intense desperation? Because the sources say they've been on a serious losing streak for the last 5 days.
Losing streak is a polite way to put it. I mean, it's been a catastrophe. To understand the tension in Session 26, you have to look at the tragedy of their friend Traxador.
Traxtor was their cleric, right? The healer.
He was, and we need to explain why that matters so much. In a land like Barovia, or in Dungeons and Dragons generally, a cleric is your lifeline.
The ultimate safety net.
It is. They are the source of healing, of restoration, of curing diseases. Losing your cleric is like losing your oxygen tank while you are scuba diving in a dark cave. You might be okay for a minute, but the panic sets in immediately.
And he didn't just die peacefully in his sleep. This was violent.
Far from it. Traxador was executed. The party, to their credit, retrieved his corpse.
Which couldn't have been easy.
No. They hauled his body all the way to the Abbey of St. Markova in a place called Kresk. They were banking everything on a resurrection.
And this is the part of the record that creeps me out. They go to the abbot, who agrees to bring him back, but there's a catch. There's always a catch.
There is always a catch in Barovia. The abbot is, well, he's a deeply disturbing figure. He agrees to the resurrection, but the price is a wedding dress.
Wedding dress.
Yes.
A wedding dress.
A wedding dress. For his golem bride. He is building a flesh golem to be a bride for someone, and the text heavily implies it's for Strahd, and he needs a dress.
That is just horrifying. It turns this holy mission of saving their friend into this grotesque, macabre errand. Go find me a dress for my monster and I'll fix your friend.
Exactly. It shows the lengths the party was willing to go to. They agreed to this bizarre barter. They went and got the dress. But here is the kicker. The miracle failed. The resurrection didn't take.
Wait, how does a resurrection fail? I thought that was just a spell you cast. You paid the diamond, or in this case the dress, and poof, he's back.
Usually, yes. But Barovia is different. Souls are trapped there. The dark powers that rule this land don't like letting people go, and they don't always let them come back.
So it's like the whole realm is working against them.
It is. A failed resurrection implies that Traxador's soul might not be free to return, or perhaps that the abbot's power is corrupted and not what it seems. It shifts the genre from high fantasy to cosmic horror. The rules you thought you knew don't apply here.
So they paid the price, they did the horrible errand, and got nothing. That's devastating.
And it gets worse.
Of course it does.
Shortly after that failure, they are at a place called Selenka Pass, which is this high, freezing mountain road. They are trying to find the Amber Temple, a place of dark secrets, and they get jumped by Vrox.
Rocks. What are rocks?
Demonic, vulture-like creatures, screeching, flying nightmares with hooked beaks and claws. In that encounter, Traxador's body is, well, the text says he is killed again.
His body is killed again. How do you kill a corpse?
They tore it apart, mutilated it beyond repair. It's just adding insult to injury. It's the universe telling them, stop trying.
It represents finality.
Total finality. The party realizes they can't save him. There's nothing left to save. They cremate what's left of him in these mysterious green flames at the pass.
Green flames. That sounds ominous.
Very. It suggests magical fire, perhaps linked to the dark entities of the Amber Temple they were seeking. But the takeaway for the party is that Traxador is gone. Permanently. That's the nail in the coffin. Literally. When you cremate the body, you are admitting, we are never fixing this. That is a heavy psychological break for a group of heroes.
And with him, the amulet of Ravenkind was lost. That's the connection.
Right. It had been taken from him earlier when Traxador was captured by Lady Wachter's forces. So that is the connection. They need the amulet because without their cleric, without their healer, they are terrified of facing the big bad, Strahd.
So they feel naked without it. It's their only crutch left.
Exactly. They believe this amulet is the only thing that levels the playing field. It can create sunlight, it hurts vampires. It's not just a heist for greed, it's a heist for survival. They are acting out of pure fear.
Now, I want to talk about the journey itself, because the outline mentions this stuff happened at Selenka Pass, but the heist is in Vallaki. That's not next door, is it?
No, it's a significant trek, and I think that travel time is crucial.
Yeah.
Imagine walking down a cold mountain, carrying the ashes of your friend in a pouch, knowing you failed
It's
him.
just silence and grief.
Right, that silence, that travel time, that is where the desperation festers. By the time they get back to civilization, they aren't thinking clearly. They're desperate for any kind of win.
Which brings us to the deception of Ismark. They pick him up in the village of Barovia on their way to Villagi. And this is where the morality of the group really starts to look gray.
Dark gray. They recruit Ismark. Now, Ismark is motivated by one thing and one thing only: his adopted sister, Irina.
Right. And the party knows where Irina is. They have firsthand knowledge.
They do. They know that during a previous vampire attack on Vallaki, she was taken. She is with Strahd at Castle Ravenloft. She is, for all intents and purposes, gone.
But they don't tell Ismark that.
No. They tell him, come with us to Vallaki. We're going to fight vampires. Your sister is there. It is a lie by omission, weaponized to recruit him as extra muscle.
Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second. Is it actually that cold? Or is it the only play they have? If they don't get the amulet, they can't kill Strahd. If they can't kill Strahd, Irina is doomed anyway.
Right.
Isn't lying to Ismark actually the most moral thing to do to save the world? Like utilitarian ethics.
Yeah.
The needs of the many.
That is certainly the argument the party would make to themselves to sleep at night. The ends justify the means, but think about the human cost of that. You are manipulating a man's love for his family to use him as a meat shield.
That's a harsh way to put it.
But it's true. Yes, strategically, it makes a certain kind of cold sense. But morally, it's corrosive. It turns an ally into a tool. You're not partners anymore. You're a user, and he's the used.
And it creates this incredible dramatic irony for us, the readers. We know the truth, the party knows the truth, but Ismark is fighting with the fury of a brother trying to save his family, completely unaware that he is fighting for a lost cause.
And that tension is going to snap. It has to. You can't maintain a lie that big under that much pressure.
So, armed with this lie and their desperation, they arrive at Vallaki. Now, Vallaki is a walled town. You can't just waltz in, especially if you've caused trouble there before, which they have.
Right. So they don't knock on the front door. They breach the walls and go straight for Lady Wachter's house. They opt for a subterranean entry. The root cellar.
Classic heist trope. Start from the bottom and work your way up.
And almost immediately, they find something that suggests Lady Wachter isn't just a rich noblewoman who likes nice tea and political maneuvering.
They find a secret chamber with a pentagram on the floor.
Yeah. Nothing good ever happens in a room with a pentagram on the floor.
Never. What does that tell them? What does that signal to the party?
It strongly implies devil worship or summoning rituals. It completely changes the context of the heist. They aren't just robbing a political rival, they are stepping into a cultist's lair. The air probably smells like sulfur and old blood. It signals to the party, the rules of engagement have changed, you are dealing with infernal powers.
But they don't find the amulet there. So Yerhorn, the Beastmaster, decides to use magic.
Oh!
He casts Locate Object.
A smart move. Why search physically when you can search magically? It's like having a GPS for treasure. It should be simple.
And the result?
Silence. The spell fails. It does not detect the amulet of Ravenkind.
Okay, I want to dig into this mechanic, because this is a crucial moment. When you say the spell fails, does that mean the amulet absolutely isn't there? Or is there wiggle room?
There is a little wiggle room, and that is what the party latches onto. In this magic system, there is one specific material that blocks divination spells, like this one, lead.
Lead, like the metal.
Yes, a thin sheet of lead is like kryptonite for locate object. If the amulet is inside a lead-lined box, the magic just bounces off. The spell would say, I can't find it, even if it's 3 feet away from you.
So they convince themselves it's hidden, not missing. They create an explanation that fits their desired outcome.
Exactly. A rational actor might say, the spell failed, let's cut our losses and leave. But this goes back to the sunk cost fallacy we were talking about. They have traveled all this way, they have lied to Ismark, they have breached the town walls. They cannot accept that it might be for nothing.
They needed to be there.
They needed to be there, so they manufacture a reason to stay. Oh, I must be in a lead box upstairs.
So they ignore the massive red flag. They leave the cellar and head up.
And this is where the heist portion of the evening falls apart completely. They move from the cellar to the mudroom. Behrman, the rogue, cracks open a door.
This should be his moment. He's the arcane trickster. This is his entire job description.
He sees a guard posted at the back door. The setup is perfect for a stealth takedown. Slip in, silence the guard, keep moving. The plan is still alive.
He draws his rapier. He leaps out. And then Physics happens.
The source material notes that the narrow confines thwart the attack. I want you to imagine a cluttered hallway full of boots and coats and stacked firewood. He lunges, but his blade catches on the stone wall.
I can hear that sound. That horrible scree of metal on stone.
It's the loudest sound in the world in that moment. It completely ruins the element of surprise. The sentry ducks, and more importantly, he starts yelling.
The alarm is raised. The stealth run is over. Enter Radley.
Radley solves the problem the only way an Eldritch Knight knows how. He steps in and, to quote the record, hammers the sentry to death.
Brutal. No subtlety there.
It is effective, but it is loud and messy. The guard dies in a pool of blood. The tone of the mission shifts instantly. We are no longer watching Ocean's 11. We are watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
And noise travels. The yelling, the hammering, the whole house is waking up.
The dominoes start falling. They hear footsteps upstairs. They rush into a storeroom to hide, trying to regain some control.
A storeroom full of common supplies. Not exactly a fortress. They're crouching behind bags of flour and crates of wine.
And while they are in there, hiding, debating whether to barricade themselves in, a servant woman walks in.
Talk about bad timing. Just absolutely the worst luck. She's probably just coming to get a broom or something.
Imagine her perspective for a second. She opens the door to get a mop, and she finds a group of heavily armed, blood-splattered adventurers hiding among the crates. Her world just turned upside down.
And they tell her to run.
Which she does, but she also screams.
Naturally. If I saw Radley standing there with a hammer dripping blood, I'd scream too. I'd scream my lungs out.
Her screams alert the guards in the front foyer. Now the house is completely awake. The party dispatches those guards. Again, seasoned adventurers versus common men-at-arms is a mismatch. But the chaos is uncontrolled now. There's no plan anymore.
It's a cascade of failure. One mistake after another. Screaming servants, dying guards, blood on the floor, and they just keep pushing forward. They rush through the kitchen, into the foyer, and finally into the parlor.
They are rushing toward the center of the house, ignoring the sounds of people putting on armor upstairs. They are committed to this aggressive, headlong push.
Let's talk about the parlor, because the source gives us some great visual details here. It's not a dungeon, it's a home. This is someone's space.
It's opulent. You have velvet couches, a roaring hearth, a crystal chandelier catching the light. It's a scene of domestic wealth. And a portrait above the fireplace.
The portrait of a distinguished man with a broken nose.
It's such a specific detail. I love it. It tells you about the family. They're wealthy, but they're rough. Maybe former adventurers themselves, or just a family that's seen its share of brawls. It grounds the scene. This isn't a generic video game level. It's someone's living room that's about to be turned into a war zone.
But the party doesn't have time to admire the art. They have arrived at the boss fight.
Lady Wachter.
She's been the antagonist in the background for a while. What is she doing? Is she surprised?
She is there, but she isn't alone. She's prepared. She has 2 wardens with her. And these aren't just guards, they are spellcasters. They are using necromantic bolts and summoning spiritual weapons.
So the difficulty curve just spiked massively. We went from common guards to magic users.
And Lady Wachter is smart. She's not a fool. She realizes she is outnumbered. The party, despite the botched stealth, is a formidable combat unit. So she escalates.
How does she escalate?
She summons a devil.
Because of course she does. The pentagram in the basement wasn't just for decoration.
She pulls a creature straight from the 9 hells right into her parlor. It just appears in a flash of smoke and brimstone.
I love the description of Ismark here. The source says he lets out a cry of despair.
Think about that for a second. Ismark is a guy who deals with wolves and maybe the occasional zombie. He's a grounded, mortal fighter. He thinks he is here to fight vampires. Suddenly, space and reality tear open and a barbed devil steps out. The cognitive dissonance must be overwhelming.
He has no frame of reference for this.
None. He's looking at this thing thinking, what have you people got me into?
But he fights. To his credit, he doesn't break.
He fights. Radley engages the devil. Now, Radley is a fire user. Typically, that's his go-to magic. But he knows, or figures out very quickly, that fire doesn't hurt devils.
They live in hell.
Right, they're used to the heat, so he has to go toe-to-toe with steel. Ismark joins him. They are in the trenches right there on the expensive rug, fighting this thing from another plane of existence.
Meanwhile, Eurahorn is getting creative. He's using the environment.
I really enjoyed this tactical detail. Eurahorn is a halfling, so he is small, maybe 3 feet tall. He's riding his great cat. He has his cat leap onto the dining table,
Just scattering the fine china.
scattering fine silver and crystal with a crash, the record says. Imagine the noise. He takes the high ground amidst the crockery to fire arrows. It's a chaotic, cinematic image. It's pure desperation, using the furniture as terrain because you're out of options.
And Dearmon the rogue, the one who started all this, he's having a rough time.
Learmon is dealing with the invisible threat. He tries to get to Lady Wachter, but he just hears these wings.
The buzzing of a giant fly.
An imp, but an invisible one. It attacks him from behind Lady Wachter. It stings him.
And imps are poisonous, right?
Highly. The puncture itself is small, almost like a pinprick, but the poison causes intense pain and serious damage. It's terrifying because he can't see what's hurting him. He just feels the pain, hears the buzzing wings, and knows something is hunting him. That breeds paranoia in a fight.
So you've got a devil fighting the fighter and the burgomaster on the floor. You've got a halfling on the dining table destroying the dinnerware. You've got a rogue getting stung by an invisible monster. And Perlan.
Perlan the monk is just a whirlwind of martial artistry, attacking multiple foes, trying to control the chaos. And amazingly, the party actually starts to gain the upper hand. They kill the devil. They take down the wardens.
They are winning. After all the mistakes, they are going to pull this off.
That is what they think. For one brief, shining moment, it looks like they've turned the tide. They are on the brink of capturing Lady Wachter. But this is Dungeons & Dragons. The tide can turn on a single spell.
And Lady Wachter has one big card left to play.
Spirit Guardians.
Oh, that is a nasty spell. For the uninitiated, explain what Spirit Guardians does. Break it down.
Think of it as a magical blender. The caster calls forth spirits. In Lady Wafter's case, the text implies they look like spectral devils or tortured souls. These spirits swirl around her in a 15-foot radius. Any enemy that starts their turn there, or even enters the area, gets shredded by these phantoms. It's constant, grinding, holy, or in this case, unholy damage.
So it's area denial. Don't come near me.
It is. And because the party has closed in to capture her, they've all rushed her. They're literally getting within arm's reach. They are all in the kill zone.
The source says this spell breaks the party.
Instantly. It's not a slow attrition. Eurahorn, the Beastmaster on the table, drops unconscious. Perlane the monk, in the middle of his flurry of blows, drops unconscious. Half the party is down in the blink of an eye. The blender turned on and they got caught in the blades.
And Eurahorn's cat, his loyal companion.
It flees. The bond is strong, but the survival instinct is stronger. The cat sees its master go down, feels this aura of death, and it runs. That's a sign of how bad things have gotten. The loyal pet abandons the master.
So now it's just Radley and Ismark standing. The two halflings are on the floor dying. Lady Wachter is gloating. She's probably laughing maniacally.
Maniacal glee is the phrase used in the record. She is calling for them to be killed. She has won. The trap has been sprung.
This is the moment where the mission shifts. It's no longer robbery, it's rescue.
Radley and Ismark have to switch roles completely. They become medics and porters. They grab the unconscious halflings.
They can't fight anymore. If they stay to fight, everyone dies. There's no victory here.
None. Radley grabs a body, Ismark grabs a body, and they run.
And as they run, Radley makes a choice that I think defines his character in this moment. A very telling action.
The scorched earth policy.
Describe what he does.
On the way out, carrying his fallen comrade, passing that storeroom full of supplies, the flour, the oil, the wine, he casts Firebolt.
He sets the house on fire.
Ostensibly, you could argue it's a tactical decision to delay pursuit. Smoke and fire create confusion. It covers their escape.
But it's more than that, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Let's be honest. It's also an act of pure spite.
It feels like a tantrum. If we can't have the amulet, you don't get to have a house.
It's ruthless.
Wait.
And it transforms them from adventurers into arsonists. They aren't just thieves anymore. They are destroyers. They've crossed a line.
Perlan wakes up while being carried. Monks are resilient. But Eurahorn is out cold. They flee over the town walls, avoiding the gates entirely.
Because the gates would be guarded now. The alarm is raised. The whole town is waking up. Going over the wall is the only way.
They made it to the tree line. They are safe physically, but emotionally. This is where the real explosion happens.
The confrontation with Ismark, it was inevitable. This is always going to happen.
Paint the picture for us. They're in the woods. It's dark. They're catching their breath. Smoke is rising from the town behind them.
Ismark is agitated. He is looking at that smoke. He's looking at his allies who just nearly got him killed by a devil. He's covered in blood and dirt. And he says, we have to go back. We have to save Irina.
And the party.
Yeah.
They can't keep the lie up anymore. They're too tired. The facade crumbles.
They are beaten. The adrenaline is fading, replaced by exhaustion and failure. They finally tell him the truth. Irina isn't there, Ismark. She was taken days ago. Strahd has her.
Imagine being Ismark in that moment. The betrayal must feel absolute.
It's profound. The source describes his reaction as incredulous. He swears. He looks toward the mountains, toward Castle Ravenloft in the distance. He realizes he has been played. Everything he just went through was for nothing.
He's furious. He rebukes them. He was used as a meat shield for a heist that had nothing to do with his sister.
And how does the party defend themselves? Do they apologize? Do they show any remorse or beg for forgiveness?
I bet they don't, based on their actions so far.
No. They are unapologetic. Their defense is purely pragmatic. They tell him, we cannot fight Strahd without the amulet.
We did this for the greater good. We lied to you because we need this item to win. Your feelings don't matter right now.
It's a cold calculus. They are telling him that his feelings, and even his sister's immediate safety, are secondary to the strategic necessity of the amulet. We used you because we had to.
Does Ismark accept that? How does he even process that?
The text says he is placated for the moment, but falls into a brooding silence. That trust is shattered. It's not broken, it's gone. He might still travel with them because he has no other choice, but the relationship has fundamentally changed forever.
He's stuck with them. He can't storm Castle Ravenloft alone. He needs them, even if he hates them right now.
Precisely. It's a forced alliance now. A marriage of convenience held together only by mutual hatred of Strahd.
So, battered, bruised, and morally compromised, they trek to the Wizards of Wine.
The winery is their last safe haven in the area. It's a long, silent walk in the dark.
And when they get there, Eurhorn finally wakes up.
Yeah.
And what's the first thing he does? He doesn't ask what happened. He doesn't check his wounds.
He's paranoid. He immediately uses his primeval awareness.
He's checking for the imp.
That invisible attacker left a psychological scar. He reaches out with his senses to see if that fiend, that little devil, is following them. He needs to know if they are truly safe or if the hunt is still on.
Are they safe?
No sense of the imp. They are safe. For now.
Man, what a session. So let's zoom out. We've gone through the play-by-play. What does this all mean?
Well, if we look at the mission of this deep dive, which was to analyze the party's decision-making, the verdict is just. It's damning. This session is a textbook example of the sunk cost fallacy leading to utter disaster.
Break that down for the listeners. What is the sunk cost fallacy really in this context?
Think of it like gambling. Imagine you at a blackjack table and you've lost your rent money. The smart play is to walk away, but you keep betting not because you think you'll win, but because walking away means admitting you ruined everything. You're trying to win back what you already lost, so you keep making bad bets.
So the party kept betting.
Exactly. They started with a bad hand no cleric, the trauma of Traxador's final death. They tried to fix it with a heist. When the heist showed clear signs of failure, the locate object spell finding nothing, they doubled down because they had already spent the effort of getting there and, crucially, the moral cost of lying to Ismark.
They didn't want to walk away empty-handed, so they walked away almost dead.
And empty-handed anyway. That's the tragic part. They didn't get the amulet. The net result of this entire session is negative. They lost resources, they lost health, they completely destroyed their relationship with Ismark, and they burned down a house in a town they might need to visit again.
And they lost their reputation. I mean, let's be blunt, they are arsonists and liars now.
The moral decay is the other key takeaway here. The darkening tone of the narrative is palpable. To survive in Barovia, the heroes are becoming less heroic. They are adopting the ruthlessness of the very land they are trying to save.
It's that old Nietzsche saying, he who fights monsters should see to it that he himself does not become a monster.
It applies perfectly here. By engaging with Lady Wachter on her terms, by lying to Ismark, by using fire and brute force, they are sliding down a very slippery slope. They're starting to look a lot like the villains.
And the loss of Traxador is still haunting them. It feels like the root of all this.
It's the vacuum that Ismark cannot fill. Ismark is a warrior. He's a leader in his own right, but he is not a cleric. He cannot heal the party's wounds or their souls. The party is grieving, even if they aren't admitting it, and that grief is driving them to make rash, emotional decisions. They are acting out of trauma.
So here is where it gets really interesting for you, the listener, to think about. Consider the position they are in now. They are at the Wizards of Wine. They are hiding. Strahd has Irina. The amulet is missing, and for all they know was never even in that house. Ismark trusts them about as far as he can throw them.
The walls are closing in. Every option they had is now worse than it was before.
Here's my final provocative thought for you to chew on. The party burned their bridges in Vallaki, literally, with that firebolt, and they alienated the burgomaster of the village of Barovia. They did all of this to get stronger, to get the amulet. But by trying so desperately to get this one item, have they actually made themselves more vulnerable?
It's a paradox, isn't it? In their quest for strength, they have stripped away their allies and their safe harbors. They are alone in the woods now, more than ever. They have traded social capital and their moral high ground for a lottery ticket that didn't pay out.
A sobering thought. They survived the session, but can they survive the campaign?
Only time will tell. But they need to start checking for traps, both the physical ones and, more importantly, the psychological ones they keep setting for themselves.
That's all for this deep dive into Session 26. Thanks for listening, and remember, if the magic detector says the treasure isn't there, maybe just believe
Welcome
it.
to the debate.
Watch out for the
Today,
invisible ones.
we are dissecting the anatomy of a disaster. Session 26 wasn't just a failed mission, it was a masterclass in how desperation forces good people to make some terrible, arguably catastrophic choices. We are looking at a party of adventurers who are battered, bereft of their cleric, and, well, currently hiding in the mud at the Wizards of Wine.
It's a dark chapter for sure. We've gone from the tragic, really visceral death of Traxador at the Tselinka Pass to a chaotic, botched infiltration of Lady Wachter's home in Vallaki. But let's be clear right out of the gate. We aren't just here to critique their stealth rolls or, their combat spacing. We are here to talk about the lie.
Right. It's the lie. Capital T, capital L. The decision to manipulate their ally, Ismark, by withholding the devastating truth about his sister, Irina. They used him as a battering ram for a heist while he thought he was fighting a noble war to protect her. The central question we really have to answer is, was this a necessary act of survival, a pragmatic play to keep the campaign alive, or was it a moral failure that has permanently fractured the party?
Right. It's the classic conflict, the mission versus the people. On one side, you have the cold logic of, we need the artifact to kill the vampire. On the other, you have the absolute erosion of trust. And looking at the state of the party right now, I'd say the cost was way too high.
And I am going to argue that the deception was a strategic necessity. I mean, look at the board. Traxador is dead. The Amulet of Ravenkind is missing. The party was cornered. Utilizing Ismark was the only path to survive that encounter and keep the campaign against Stroth on the rails.
While I'm arguing that the foundation of this mission was rotten from minute one. Treating a sovereign ally like a pawn led to a chaotic retreat, zero material gain, and a volatile breach of trust that endangers everyone. I mean, they traded a friend for a chance at loot, and they ended up with neither.
Okay, let's start by setting the stage, because I don't think you can judge this decision in a vacuum. You have to look at the psychological state of the party. They didn't just lose Traxador. This wasn't a standard combat death where you revivify the cleric and move on. They watched him get torn apart by Vrox at the Tsolinka Pass.
It was brutal. The description of that death was heavy.
It was visceral. And then the aftermath, they drag his body to the gatehouse. The plan to trade the wedding dress to the abbot for a resurrection, that failed. They had no way to bring him back. So they end up at the gatehouse, burning their friend's body in those mysterious, magical green flames, just to prevent him from rising as an undead spawn of Strahd.
That scene just sets the tone for everything that follows. Standing there, watching the green fire consume your cleric, the smell of ozone and burning flesh. I mean, that changes a group. It hollows you out. It makes you realize that the safety net is gone.
Exactly. They are exhausted, they are traumatized, and they are terrified. Their primary goal is defeating Strahd. That is the objective reality. To do that, they believe they need the Amulet of Ravenkind. And they have intel, flawed intel maybe, but intel nonetheless, that it's in Lady Wachter's possession.
So they limp back to Vallaki.
Right. And who do they find? Ismark. And he is frantic. He knows vampires attacked the church. He knows his sister was there. Now put yourself in the party's shoes. If they tell him the truth right then, that Irina was taken by the mob and hand-delivered to Strahd, what happens?
He reacts emotionally, sure. He's her brother. He's the lesser.
Emotionally is a massive understatement. He spirals, he launches a suicide mission directly at Castle Ravenloft. He marches to the drawbridge and demands his sister back, and Strahd peels him apart like an orange. The party loses an ally, and they probably die trying to save him.
So the logic is, we have to lie to him to save him from himself.
It's a benevolent deception. By telling him they were going to Vallaki to stop Lady Wachter, they channeled his rage into a target they actually needed to hit. They needed his sword. They needed his body in the room. It kept him alive, and it gave them a shot at the artifact that saves everyone, including Irina. It was the only logical path.
See, you call it benevolent, I call it arrogant. You're assuming the party knows what's best for Ismark better than Ismark does. And that arrogance led to a catastrophic miscalculation. You're arguing the ends justify the means, but look at the ends. The heist was a total failure.
The outcome doesn't invalidate the strategy. Sometimes you make the right play and the dice just don't go your way. That's just the game.
But the strategy relied on a lie that blew up in their faces. Look at the facts. They break into the root cellar. Yuri Horn casts locate object. Result, nothing. Silence. They get to the secret chamber with the pentagram. Empty. They dragged Ismark into a devil's den based on a hunch. They recruited him under false pretenses. I mean, he thought he was fighting for justice, but he was actually just a meat shield for a loot run.
A loot run for a holy artifact that creates sunlight. You're minimizing the stakes to make them sound like common burglars.
And you're minimizing the cost of trust. They created an internal enemy. When the truth finally came out in the tree line, Ismark wasn't just upset. He was incredulous. He realized he had been played. You have traded long-term loyalty for a short-term gain that didn't even pay off. They are now hiding at the winery with the silent, brooding man who knows his friends will lie to his face if it serves their agenda. That isn't strategy. That is self-sabotage.
I disagree that it's self-sabotage. I think it's damage control. But let's move into the core debate and dissect the actual events of the heist. I want to talk about the execution. Because you claim the lie caused the chaos, I argue the chaos was inevitable, and the party handled it with remarkable prowess, because they had Ismark.
Prowess? Are we watching the same session? The operation was sloppy from the moment they left the basement.
It was a high-risk entry. High risk, high reward.
It was a botched entry. Let's just look at the tape. Darman, their rogue, cracks open the door to the mudroom. He has the element of surprise. This is what rogues do. This is his bread and butter. And what happens? He leaps in, his rapier scrapes the stone wall skirt, and the guard ducks. That's a critical failure in stealth execution.
Well, that's the friction of combat. Even the best rogues miss. You can't plan for a bad die roll.
But you can plan for the consequences. Because the party was so disjointed, the reaction was just panic. The guard yells. The alarm is raised instantly. Then they scramble to the kitchen. They find a servant. Instead of managing that situation, subduing her, intimidating her, casting silence, she screams and flees. Within seconds, the entire house is alert. This wasn't a tactical strike. It was a loud, clumsy home invasion. If they had been honest with Ismark, perhaps they could have formulated a cohesive assault plan rather than this piecemeal room-to-room panic.
I don't buy that for a second. The trap was waiting for them regardless of how quietly they knocked or how honest they were with the NPC. Lady Wachter didn't just have guards, she had wardens. We're talking spellcasters capable of high-level necromancy. She had the ability to summon a barbed devil. This wasn't a situation that could be solved with a perfect sneak attack.
You really think Ismark's presence changed the math that much?
It saved the campaign. Look at the data. Radley hammered that guard in the mudroom to death instantly. That was good focus fire. But when the devil was summoned, who was there? Ismark.
Ismark was there, shouting in despair because he didn't understand what was happening. He's fighting a devil while thinking he's there to stop a political rival.
But he engaged. That is the point. Radley and Ismark bravely engaged a literal fiend from the hells. Radley knew his firebolt was useless against the devil's resistance, so he went in with steel. But Ismark? Ismark tanked the damage. He stood in the paint. Without Ismark absorbing those blows, that devil would have been tearing into Urahorn or Perlin much earlier. Without the lie that brought Ismark to that room, The party suffers a total party kill, period.
That is a strong claim. You think they wipe without him?
Absolutely. Look at the damage output. The party was split. Half of them were getting chewed up upstairs. Without Ismark holding the line downstairs, the pincer movement crushes them. The devil comes up the stairs, the wardens come down, and the campaign ends in session 26.
Okay, I'll grant you that Ismark was a useful meat shield. But that brings me to the second point, the cost of engagement. You're framing this as a survival story. They didn't die. But I see a list of casualties that suggests the party is operating way beyond its capacity.
They are alive. That is the only metric that matters in Barovia.
Barely. Look at the physical toll. Let's talk about spirit guardians.
Ah, Lady Wachter's signature spell. Nasty piece of work.
It was devastating. Listeners need to understand the mechanics here. Spirit guardians isn't just damage. It creates difficult terrain. It halves your movement speed. So you have Orihorn and Paralan running up the stairs trying to close the gap. And they are suddenly wading through spectral devils that are tearing their souls apart. They can't move fast enough to get out of the radius.
They took a beating, I admit.
A beating? They were shredded. Orihorn and Paralan were both rendered unconscious. That is 2 party members down in rounds. And look at the psychological toll. Orihorn's cat fled the scene.
The Beastmaster bond. Yeah.
Exactly. That bond is supernatural. For the animal to panic and run, ignoring its master's commands, the level of fear and necrotic energy in that room must have been off the charts. And don't forget Daramon. He was poisoned by an invisible imp. A superficial puncture, yes, but do they have antitoxin? Do they have a lesser restoration spell prepared now that Traxador is ash? No. They are broken.
And yet, they retreated successfully. That is a tactical win in a worst-case scenario. You're focusing on the damage taken. I'm focusing on the extraction.
Extraction. They ran away.
Radley had the presence of mind, despite the chaos, despite the devil clawing at him, to cast firebolt into the storeroom. He created a smokescreen, a distraction to delay pursuit. That is veteran thinking. They didn't leave anyone behind. Radley and Ismark carried the fallen bodies out. Perlin, to his credit, regained consciousness and walked, but Radley carried Orihorn all the way out. That shows unit cohesion.
It shows desperation. They ran between houses like rats. They dropped Orihorn in the dirt to bind his bleeding wounds. They didn't even dare go for the main gates. They had to scramble over the wall to escape to the Wizards of Wine. They are now battered. Orihorn's cat is prowling nervously, and they have nothing to show for it. No amulet, no dead Lady Wachter, just injuries, a poisoned rogue, and a furious ally.
They have intelligence. They know what Lady Wachter is capable of now. They know the amulet isn't easily found.
And they have lost the moral high ground. Which leads us to the most critical point, the revelation. The scene in the tree line outside the walls. This is where the pragmatic argument just crumbles for me.
I think it holds up perfectly. Picture the scene. They are outside the walls, patching wounds. Ismark is agitated, rightfully so. He wants to go back in. He's talking about saving Irina from the chaos of Vallaki. He thinks she's still in the town. The party finally tells him the truth. She isn't in Vallaki. She was taken by the mob and given to Strahd.
And you'd think this was the right time to tell him while he's wiping Devil Ichor off his blade?
It was the only time. They couldn't hide it anymore. If they let him run back into Vallaki, he dies to the guards of the vampires. They needed to stop him from running into a slaughterhouse.
They told him because they were cornered, not because they respected him. And look at his reaction. The session notes are specific. Ismark wasn't just mad. He was incredulous. He swears in frustration. He rebukes them. This isn't just a disagreement on tactics. He feels betrayed. He demands they go to Castle Wavenloft immediately.
And the party stood their ground with logic. This is why I respect their play. They didn't cave to his emotion. They told him, unapologetically, we cannot confront Strahd without the Amulet of Ravenkind. This is an objective fact. They believe this artifact is the key to creating sunlight, which is the only thing that evens the odds against a vampire lord. Ismark's anger is emotional. The party stance is strategic.
Strategic? They sound like cold-blooded manipulators. Sorry we lied to you about your sister being kidnapped by a monster, but we really needed you to tank that devil for us. Now sit down and shut up.
But it worked. They placated him. He fell into a brooding silence. That silence means he is still following them. He didn't attack them. He didn't leave. He went with them to the winery.
He went to the winery because he has nowhere else to go. But you are misreading that silence. A brooding silence is not consent. It is resentment stewing. You have a powerful warrior who now knows you view him as a tool. He knows you withheld the most important information in his life just to get him to swing a sword.
He's still a resource they have access to.
For how long? Trust is a resource in this game, just as much as hit points or spell slots. The party spent all their trust capital on this failed heist. Ismark is a ticking time bomb. What happens when they get close to Ravenloft? What happens when Strahd offers Ismark a deal? Bring me the amulet and I'll let you see her.
Ismark hates Strahd. He won't turn.
But he might hate the party now too, or at least not trust them to watch his back. If he abandons them in a critical moment or charges in recklessly because he refuses to listen to their plans anymore, that creates a vulnerability that the amulet, if they ever find it, can't fix.
That's a risk, certainly. But let's look at the alternative again. If they hadn't lied, Ismark runs to Ravenloft alone and dies. The party tries to take Wachter House alone and likely dies to the Wardens and the Devil without Ismark's help. The lie bought them another day. It bought them a chance to rest at the Wizards of Wine. Urahorn used primeval awareness and confirmed the imp wasn't pursuing them. They're safe for the moment.
Safe but hollowed out. They are resting, yes. Urahorn is conscious again, but the dynamic has shifted. They are no longer heroes leading a rebellion. They are desperate survivors manipulating their friends.
Sometimes, in Barovia, that is the only way to be a hero. You have to make the hard calls. They prioritize the mission over feelings.
And in doing so, they may have doomed the mission by rotting it from the inside.
Let's move to our conclusion. We are looking at a party in a dire state. Traxador is dead and cremated. The amulet of Ravenkind is still missing. The party is hiding at the Wizards of Wine, licking their wounds.
And the psychological state is just as bad. You have a poisoned rogue. Dermon is tough, but poison is insidious. You have a humiliated Beastmaster whose cat is nervous, which is a terrible sign. And you have an ally in Ismark who is silent, angry, and watching them with suspicious eyes.
Despite all that, I maintain that the party made the necessary choices. The world of Barovia is unforgiving. They attempted a decapitation strike on Lady Wachter to retrieve a vital artifact. It failed, yes, but the logic behind utilizing Ismark was sound. They needed his strength to survive, and the evidence of the battle, the Devil, the Spirit Guardians, proves they would not have walked out of there without him. They preserved their lives to fight another day.
But at what price? I conclude that the party has traded their moral compass for survival, and it wasn't a good trade. They failed to get the item, they failed to kill the target, and they succeeded only in alienating one of the few powerful allies they have left. By treating Ismark as a pawn, they have sown seeds of distrust that will likely blossom at the worst possible moment, perhaps at the gates of Ravenloft itself.
That remains to be seen. But what is clear is that the tension between Ismark and the party is now the most volatile element in this campaign. They are together at the winery, but they are not united.
And that lack of unity is exactly what Strahd exploits.
A fascinating point to end on. Thank you for joining us on The Debate.
Until
Today we're
next
looking at
time.
Session 26, a D&D narrative covering a heist, a devil fight, and a pretty intense character revelation.
Yeah, a really interesting piece to dive into.
So let's jump right in. A key theme I saw here was this challenge of pacing, and it starts right away. The opening sequence in the root cellar, it really slows the narrative momentum without a payoff. It weakens the hook.
It really does. It's what I'd call a false start.
A false start, okay.
Yeah, because functionally, it's accurate to the game, right? The players check a room, find nothing, a spell fails. But narratively, it just deflates all the tension.
It feels like a list.
Exactly. A list of procedural checks. You're primed for this exciting heist, but the first paragraph is just a description of things not happening.
Right. It's a logbook, not a story. So how do we strengthen that? What's the alternative to just, reporting the failure?
Well, the suggestion is to use this idea of failing forward.
Mm-hmm.
If a scene has no loot and no combat, it absolutely has to have atmosphere or lore that raises the stakes for what's coming next. You have to take the nothing they found and make it an ominous nothing.
I like that. So not just emptiness, but a threatening emptiness. Can you give us a concrete example with that pentagram?
Sure. So the text says they find the pentagram, but finding nothing else, they prepare to ascend.
Right. A missed opportunity.
A huge one. Instead of just saying finding nothing else, you could describe the dust on the floor. Maybe it's recently been disturbed, implying the amulet was moved just moments before they got there.
Oh, that's good.
It changes the feeling from we picked the wrong room, which is boring, to we just missed them, which immediately ramps up the urgency.
Turns a dead end into a near miss. And the spell failure, that felt very binary. The spell does not detect it.
Yeah, exactly. We can reframe that. Instead of just saying the spell failed, describe the sensation of it failing. Maybe the magic hits a void, a kind of suffocating magical silence.
So it's not just a wasted spell slot.
Not at all. It becomes a narrative clue about Lady Wachter's power. It tells the reader she's prepared for this. It's a villain reveal, not just a mechanical failure.
And then, just to tie it up, the movement from the cellar to upstairs?
Just condense it. Combine the cellar and the ascent into one fluid motion. Something like, finding only a chilling, empty pentagram below, the party was forced upward, toward the sound of murmuring voices. It keeps things moving.
Excellent. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about that first fight, the skirmish in the mudroom. The description relies a little too heavily on mechanical outcomes rather than the chaotic reality of the space.
Right. You have all these great details mentioned, narrow confines, household supplies, but they're not really leveraged.
It's all a bit abrupt, isn't it? From a botched stealth attempt to a guard being hammered to death?
Very abrupt. It reads like a video game log. Stealth failed. Combat initiated. Enemy defeated. We're missing the how.
I agree. It moves too fast. So the suggestion here is to lean into the claustrophobia. Use the clutter to make the violence feel more desperate.
Exactly. We need to know why the attack failed in those confines. The text says the rapier scrapes along the wall. Let's expand on that.
Okay.
Describe it getting tangled in a hanging coat or hitting a doorframe with a loud clang. Show the frustration of trying to use a finesse weapon in a tiny, cramped space. It makes the failure feel physical, not just like a bad roll.
And that phrase, hammered to death. It's intense, but...
It's abstract. Let's make it visceral. Use the environment. Did Radley smash the guard against the wall? Into the bench? And the noise? Describe the sickening thud against the wood. That's why the alarm gets raised so fast. Violence is loud.
Right, you can't hide that sound. Which leads them to hiding in the storeroom.
And this is a great opportunity for contrast. The text mentions common household supplies. Don't just list them. Juxtapose those normal things, brooms, sacks of flour, with these bloodied adventurers hiding among them. That collision of the domestic and the violent, that creates a much stronger image. It really highlights that the party are the intruders here.
It grounds the scene, makes it feel wrong, which is perfect for a heist. Okay, let's get to the big set piece. The climax in the parlor.
The big fight.
The argument here is that it lists the combatants well enough, but it misses an opportunity to showcase the specific horror of Lady Wachter's magic.
Yes, this is Ravenloft, after all. It's supposed to be gothic horror.
But the descriptions are very functional. Necromantic bolts, summons a devil.
It's all very tactical. It treats the devil like just another monster with a block of hit points, not a terrifying supernatural event. There's no terror factor.
So the suggestion is to shift focus from the tactical exchange to the psychological impact of it all.
Precisely. Let's start with the devil summoning. The text just says, she summons a devil. That's it.
So dry. It sounds like she's ordering a cab.
Right? So let's add that sensory assault. The smell of sulfur overpowering old perfume, a sudden bone-chilling drop in temperature, and Ismark's reaction, his cry of despair. That's not just a sound. That's the reaction of a brave man seeing a literal fiend from the hells.
That anchors the horror for the reader.
It really does. If he's terrified, we understand the stakes.
Okay, and what about the spirit guardians? The text says they're spectral devils that tear and stab.
That's a decent start, but we can push it. Expand on that. Are they screaming faces, grasping, translucent claws? And when they take down Yuri Horn and Perlon, make it feel visceral.
Not just hitting 0 hit points.
No, They're being overwhelmed by spectral torment, dragged down into darkness. It raises the stakes from "we need a healing potion" to "our souls are under attack."
I see. It really changes the flavor. And what about the imp? There's that great little detail in there.
Oh, I love this bit. He gets stung, and the text says he still hears the flapping of its wings.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
So make that the focus. Focus on the invisibility, the paranoia it creates. He's poisoned, he's hurt, he can't see his attacker, but he can hear it. That's pure horror. Describe him swinging at empty air, flinching at every sound. It puts the reader right inside his head.
It adds that psychological stress to the physical damage. Okay, let's move to our final and maybe most critical point, the aftermath with Ismark.
The big reveal.
Right. And the issue is that this huge emotional climax, telling Ismark the truth about his sister, is summarized so heavily. It just robs the scene of its dramatic weight.
It really does. This is arguably the most important character moment of the entire campaign so far. They lied to him, and the narrative just says the party finally tells him the truth.
It's like we're watching the scene through a telescope.
Yeah, we're fast-forwarding through the best part of the movie.
So the feedback is clear. Slow down. Use dialogue. Use body language. Show us the trust breaking.
We need to zoom in. It's that classic show, don't tell. The text says Ismark is incredulous. That's an internal state. How do we see that?
Give us some examples. How do you show incredulous physically?
Okay, well, instead of just saying it, describe him physically stopping what he's doing. He's binding Urahorn's wounds, right? A teammate.
Right.
The moment the truth comes out, his hands should just stop. He pulls away. Describe the heavy silence that falls over the group before they confess.
And the rebuke? The text says he rebukes them. It sounds almost administrative.
It does. We need to give his anger specific weight. Does he threaten to leave them? Does he look at Radley, who's holding the wounded Urahorn, with just utter disgust? We need to feel the heat of that moment.
And then they try to placate him with the excuse about the amulet.
Yeah, and the text says he's placated for the moment. That word placated, it feels too tidy, doesn't it?
It implies the conflict is resolved.
Exactly. It's too neat. I challenge the writer to explore that tension. Does Ismark actually believe them, or does he just realize he's helpless without them? That brooding silence shouldn't be acceptance.
It should be resentment.
A simmering, dangerous resentment. He isn't placated, he's trapped. He has to work with the people who failed his sister because they're his only hope. That's a much richer, darker dynamic.
That turns the ending from a wrap-up into a cliffhanger. It changes Ismark from a simple NPC into a ticking time bomb.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. To recap the main advice here. First, turn those procedural failures into atmospheric tension. An empty room should feel threatening. A failed spell should reveal something about the world.
Right. Use the failure.
Second, use the environment to make combat visceral. Don't just say a room is narrow. Show a sword hitting a wall. Make it messy.
Let the space affect the action.
Third, elevate spell descriptions beyond just mechanics. Describe the experience of the magic, the horror of it.
Make it feel real.
And finally, and maybe most importantly, zoom in on those crucial dialogue scenes. When trust is broken, don't summarize, slow down. Let the silence do the work.
I really want to encourage the listener here to treat the session log less like a record and more like a story that needs to be shaped. It's easy to transcribe your notes, but the art is in interpreting them. And honestly, I'm really curious to see how that tension with Ismark plays out. That brooding silence is a powder keg.
It absolutely is.
I'd strongly encourage them to submit the next session's log. I want to see if they can maintain that resentment.
It definitely feels like the party is walking on thin ice with him now. We look forward to reading what comes next. Thank you for tuning in to The Critique.
This is the
Keep
brief
writing
on session
and keep
26.
improving.
All right, so here's the setup. The party teams up with Ismark, the town's new leader, to go back to Vallaki. Their mission is a super high-stakes heist. They've got to steal a holy artifact from Lady Wachter's house. First up, the infiltration was a total mess from the start. Their magic to find the artifact, totally failed, and their stealth plan fell apart the second they were inside. They had to take out guards, an alarm was raised, and they were forced to just rush blindly into the mansion. Second, they walk straight into a magical trap. Lady Wachter summons devils and a vortex of spectral spirits that just overwhelms them. Soon half the team is knocked unconscious. The survivors have to start a fire for a distraction just to drag their friends over the city walls and escape. And finally, this is where the trust completely breaks down. Once they're safe, Ismark demands they go rescue his sister. But then the party admits the truth. They let a mob give her to Strahd days ago. Ismark is furious. He realized he was just used as a pawn, and that alliance is left in absolute ruins. So yeah, this session was a catastrophic failure on all fronts. They're missing the artifact, and they've shattered a key friendship. Battered and exposed, the party is left with nothing but that broken alliance and a long retreat to the winery.